Unlock the secrets of franchising success with the Franchise Life podcast. Hosted by Stacie Shannon. Join us for expert insights, success stories, and practical tips every week. Subscribe now and take your franchise journey to the next level.
Hello and welcome to the Franchise Life. Today we have a concept called assisting hands that is making a difference in people's lives every day, all day long throughout the United States. And with me, I have Dan Durney, who is the franchise development guru for Assisting Hands, and Emmie Knox, who is an area representative and franchise owner with Assisting Hands. Welcome.
Thanks, Stacie, for having us today.
Yeah, my pleasure. All right, Dan, let's start out with you. Assisting Hands. I'm going to ask you to give us an overview of what this franchise model is. But before that, I do want to just highlight that this model has been around for a long time. It's a very proven business model. It was established in 2006, started franchising in 2007. And you have grown to over 200 locations nationwide. So that is incredible growth. I mean, any franchise brand that can even break the 100 barrier is phenomenal, because that seems to be the hard number to break. And you guys have doubled that. So let's dive in. And can you share with me, what is Assisting Hands?
At a high level, Assisting Hands is senior care with a goal to provide care with the ADL's activities of daily living for seniors in their home is our primary goal. Sometimes the family member has brought in a loved one to live with them in their home and they need a break. So we call that respite care. And so sometimes the caregivers will provide care in the home of a family member. And then the third venue is sometimes the loved one is in a facility and they need some extra levels of care. So we're primarily non-medical and we're targeted for in-home seniors. However, we have a lot of flexibility in that a franchisee can also provide care for people who are not seniors, such as people who have post-op recuperation like a hip or a knee replacement, women who are on bed rest prior to giving birth, high-risk pregnancy situations, special needs, Alzheimer's and dementia, as you would expect, and even autism. And a handful of our franchisees even provide care for developmentally disabled adults. So we have a variety of venues to provide care, types of folks that we can provide care for, and also several payor sources in addition to private pay that include VA, Medicaid, and long-term care and disability insurance.
So this is a model when I present senior care, because predominantly the seniors are your biggest target market. Although,
Correct.
you know, you mentioned persons with disabilities, new mothers, there's a lot of other tenants that this model can serve as well. But when I do present this, I tell my clients that this is a segment where there is a tremendous need given the aging population. You are not going to be without clients to serve. But with that said, the challenge sometimes can come in the caregivers. And that is one, for me, that is one of the biggest things or attributes of this business model that people need to become comfortable with, is the staffing and the recruitment of the caregivers. Because without those, you can't serve all those people that are in need out there. So, Dan, just from your perspective, when you are walking through and teaching people about Assisting Hands, how do you overcome maybe that concern?
So first off, your assessment is correct that this is a huge market. Over 10,000 people a day in the US turn 65, which, as a side note, I put that into a spreadsheet, and it's every 8.64 seconds.
Wow.
So like you say, plenty of folks to take care of. One of the reasons I brought Emmy on today is because she's a franchisee that is often looked to and counseled with about employee retention and recruiting. She has some excellent experience in doing that. But the gist of it is the people that we look for have to have a heart for the business and have some people management skills. And as I talk with clients who sometimes have HR backgrounds, et cetera, they recognize that it's a challenge, but it's definitely doable if you have the right opportunity, and most importantly, if you treat the caregivers well, because we really believe if you take great care of the caregivers take great care of the clients, and that fixes a whole lot of recruiting things. I hope I didn't steal Emmy's thunder with saying that, but
no,
Emmy,
this is a great time to bring Emmy on. Emmy, thank you so much. I know how busy you are as a franchise owner, so I do thank you for taking time to speak with us today. So let's start with before we dive into how you handle caregiver retention, let's start with why you chose Assisting Hands and what your background is.
Sure. So my husband Lewis and I have been the owners of Assisting Hands West Austin for about 7.5 years. My background is in social work. I have a master's degree in social work, and I'm a licensed master social worker. My background was in medical social work, primarily with older adults, so working in hospice and skilled nursing. And when Lewis and I had looked at, we wanted to be business owners together, and when we looked at different companies in different industries, we pretty quickly narrowed it down to kind of my skill set and medical social work, kind of that industry. And then when we narrowed it down to home care, we went with Assisting Hands because we had a really positive feeling in our interactions with the national team. And they vetted us very strongly, where some other companies didn't really vet us and were kind of, you can open as soon as you feel ready kind of thing. And with Assisting Hands, we got a very strong vibe of, this is important that we know who you are and why you're interested in doing this, and kind of getting to know us. And it made us feel really good about the company. And any trainings or any like group retreats that we have every year, everything has exceeded our expectations. The support is really there. It's not just talked about, but it's definitely present. And yeah, it's a great company.
And I might add, if I can just add on this from a support standpoint, we really have 3 levels of support, because you have the national support team, you have the area representatives, which Emmy is one of those, and we also have what we call the FOFO, the Family Franchise Owners, which is the network of franchisees that help support each other. So there's a very robust support system.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Emmy, I love what you said about Assisting Hands vetting you strongly, and that you really appreciated that, because I do think sometimes new individuals who are new at looking at franchise ownership really don't appreciate and understand that it's a two-way vetting process. Just as you are looking and vetting the franchise brand, they are simultaneously vetting you as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that is such an important thing to recognize. And the fact that you appreciated the process, the vetting process that Assisting Hands took, because Dan and I were talking, earlier, and Assisting Hands is not a brand that is just looking to grow by its numbers. They are solely focused on finding the right partnerships.
Mm-hmm.
So with that said, how long have you and Lewis, your husband, been operating your location?
We've been open almost 8 years. So we opened October of 2016, and yeah, we've got a really great office team. We have a really good team of caregivers. We have a handful of our caregivers that have been with us since we opened. So we have some caregivers that we've worked with since day one.
Wow, that's incredible. And that, I'm sure, goes to the culture and your leadership style, most definitely. So how many territories do you operate personally?
So we service West Austin and South Austin, so 2 territories. And then we're the area representatives for Central Texas, so kind of the Austin-San Antonio corridor.
And with the 2 territories that you operate, what does your staff look like?
So we have about 5 office staff that are full-time, and we have about anywhere from 30 to 40 caregivers any given payroll. So we have a pretty large team of caregivers. We have some caregivers that work 40 hours every week, and we have some caregivers that are in school or have other jobs and they just kind of pick up a shift here and there. So we have a whole spectrum of caregivers that work very part-time and just fill in and help out, all the way to working 40 hours or some overtime each week and are really consistent with us, and then everything in between.
Wow. So, Emmy, I would love your perspective on the recruitment and retention of caregivers, because again, I think that is so critical to find for individuals to have comfort with continuously recruiting caregivers and learning those tips or tricks and how to retain them.
Yeah. So with recruiting, we try to explain to the caregivers when they're here for their new hire orientation, once they've gone through the hiring process, we try to explain kind of what sets us apart and what's different. Once they have worked a shift or 2 and kind of interfaced with us and talked with us more than just the training, I think that's when they really kind of understand it, because we do send out a lot of invitations to in-services and workshops and things that are in our office that aren't mandatory, but are a good opportunity for us to spend time with them and get to know each other. Caregiving can be a very isolating role because the caregivers, they make relationships with their clients and with the clients' family members. But as far as like coworkers and getting to know your office team and your managers, it's kind of isolating because they're out in the community and we're all here in the office. So we do try to engage with them as much as possible. A lot of times they're not able to come to our non-mandatory events, and they work the morning shift because they go pick up their kids right at 2, and so there's no way to come to a 2:30 in service. So we're really mindful to offer all different times, like weekends, evenings, all different times for workshops and in services. And then we've I say recently, but now we've been doing it about 2.5 years, we've started doing kind of a rotation of in services that are specific to caregiving and then conditions that we see with our older adults that we work with. So informative educational in services, and then we rotate. The next month is a workshop that's more geared towards the caregivers' personal lives and their personal goals. So we've done some surveys among our staff to see what kind of goals they have personally that would help them reach kind of more stability in their personal lives. And they ranked home ownership as the first goal. That the most of our caregivers had that goal in common. So so we held a workshop about new home ownership and how to like set these goals, kind of partialized tasks, and how to accomplish that. So we had a real estate agency in town that's very into like community outreach and helping with the basics. They came in and presented and gave, worksheets and kind of broke it all down. And so we held that in service because that was the most agreed upon personal goal. Second to that goal was budgeting. So we brought in a credit union that came in and they did several workshops. One was kind of the basics of budgeting. We did a debt relief one and some others that were geared towards budgeting for personal lives and families. So we kind of try to rotate those types of life enrichment workshops with our continuing education for the caregivers, because if we're able to help them, reach some stability and reach some personal goals, they'll be even better on the job. And we have found that it goes over really well with them. Even if they can't attend it, they see the invites and they really appreciate that we're doing this and trying to kind of meet them where they are.
Wow, that is incredible. It's so heartwarming. I mean, you're meeting them where they are and you're providing resources that they may not even feel comfortable going out and recruiting and learning about on their own. So that's really powerful. You know, you said something also that you try to teach them on how you are different and so forth. I mean, you mentioned, you know, from an ownership standpoint, how you're differentiating yourself, but can you talk a little bit about how you feel assisting hands is different in this space than other caregiver models that are out there?
Yeah, I feel like from a national perspective, I think the difference would be our levels of support that Dan explained, and also one of those levels being the FOFO, the family of franchise owners. I feel like that sets us apart on that level, because you can reach out to any other assisting hands owner and candidly chat about, you know, struggles, challenges, ideas, and really get some great insight and ideas. We do a retreat every year, and some of the best, we have great presenters and great informative, you know, presentations throughout the retreat, but some of the best information I get is just having candid conversations with other owners and getting ideas on recruiting, retention, you know, all of the different parts of the business and how they're doing certain things. And I'll jot down notes the whole time I'm there, just with good ideas to take back to my office.
And
So
Emmy, how do you differentiate for the caregivers because it's not uncommon that caregivers work for multiple agencies.
Right.
So obviously in service things that you're doing differentiates. And then how about as it pertains from a consumer standpoint, why they would choose Assisting Hands to provide care?
So when we're marketing, you mean to clients, when we're telling
Right.
clients what sets us apart? A big thing that sets Assisting Hands West Austin apart from the other businesses in our area is kind of our specialty in social work. So my background is in social work, and a large amount of our office employees and managers are social workers. So we like to kind of come at everything with a holistic perspective, and how can we meet everybody where they are, the caregivers and the clients, and kind of meet everybody where they are and provide that kind of clinical skill set. So that's what sets us apart in my office, at least.
Wow. And you mentioned that you and your husband both work in the business, correct?
Mm-hmm.
How do you, as co-owners and a husband-wife team, how do you split up your day-to-day responsibilities?
That's a really good question. It changes a lot. As far as our roles with the business, I do more of like the overseeing operations. And up until recently, I was doing most of our marketing. So going out and meeting with referral sources, building relationships in the community. We now have a full-time community liaison that is a social worker that has that role. And then Lewis's role in our business is mostly invoicing and payroll and everything that comes along with those two things. So he's kind of the guy in charge of the accounts receivable and accounts payable. So he has a pretty siloed role, but when he's here, he interfaces with our caregivers all the time. He's kind of the first person people see when they walk in the front door, and he helps get them their, you know, timesheets, anything in their mailbox. So he does a lot of the role that doesn't really have a title, where you're just, you know, answering calls of inquiries that have questions, helping interface with caregivers that walk in and want to pick something up. He does a lot of that in between doing all of his invoicing and payroll.
I think it's called just being a business owner.
Yeah.
You wear many hats.
Definitely.
Yeah. So one other question about your business is, where do you see the bulk of your, I mean, Assisting Hands has many different revenue streams and services that you provide or offer. What would you say is the bulk of yours in Austin?
So probably just pretty basic non-medical caregiving services in the home. Dan had mentioned we have different funding sources. We work with private pay, long-term care insurance, and then our agency has a contract with the Area Agency on Aging. So we work with their care coordinators to provide relief in the home for family caregivers. And that's actually grant money through the county that pays for, a certain number of hours per week for a certain number of weeks for a family that has a need. And then also the VA. So that's a funding source where we can help with HHA services or aid in attendance or both. So there's different funding sources. I would say primarily ours are mostly private pay and the Area Agency on Aging, kind of a combination of those. And then we do have, a handful of clients that are utilizing long-term care insurance and the VA as well.
Wow.
Think of the benefit that a franchisee in a market where there's such a knowledgeable area rep has, not only from getting open through their checklist of things to get open, but ongoingly the support from someone that's so knowledgeable in the area. That's one of our big differentiators, is having that area representative level of support.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I can see where Emmy would be a go-to for for individuals. It's phenomenal. And I'm a franchise owner in a completely different segment, but I can attest to the networking and how incredibly valuable that is amongst the franchise owners. Sharing best practices, tips, tricks, what have you, just knowing somebody else is there, dealing with the same challenges, sharing the same successes, and learning from each other. It really is very powerful. So, Emmy, what is the best advice you could give someone that is considering in-home care as an investment?
That's a really good question. The best advice I would have is if you're in it to help people, you will do well. If you're in it kind of for the right reason, you will succeed, because if you're really caring for the caregivers and the clients, then you will do well. Because that's kind of the crux of the business. If you're a caring person, and if the caregivers and your whole team can feel that, I feel like it goes very far.
Yeah, that's powerful as well. So, Dan, can you share with me what your ideal client looks like, or ideal franchise owner looks like?
So three main things. One is, as we talked about, they have a heart for the business. And interestingly, in our system, we have, I think, 6 nurses and 2 social workers, including Emmy. The rest come from food, construction, IT, even a couple of attorneys are franchisees, which the good news there is that means there's 2 less attorneys. But they all have that common thread, and we explore this on the very first call, is that they all have a common thread of they've had experience with a parent or a grandparent or a loved one. Sometimes they provide the care, sometimes they experienced it vicariously, because the impact that a caregiver has is tremendous, not only on the life of the person that they're caring for, but the whole extended family. And sometimes that experience has been a negative experience, and they believe that they want to do something that's impactful, do it the right way, leave a legacy business, and have an impact in their community. So having that heart for the business, number one. Number two, as I mentioned, some people management skills. We're not looking for slick salespeople, but if they've got some understanding of business development and what it takes to build a team, really team builders, then that's a good thing. We're an owner operator. We're not a semi-absentee or passive kind of business. So we're definitely owner operators. They have to be able to commit full time to the business, and we're office based. Most states require that anyway. And the third part is, I would say that the caregivers are all employees. We don't believe in sending contractors into people's homes. So they're all licensed, bonded, insured. So people that totally like Emmy said, they have to be in it for the right reason.
Very interesting. So your caregivers are employees, but yet they can work for multiple businesses depending on the needs and wants and their availability.
Mm-hmm.
All
Yeah,
right.
sometimes they work, sometimes they have a totally different kind of job. Sometimes they have a job in a facility, but they want to pick up extra shifts. Sometimes they're in school, as Emmy mentioned, they're picking up shifts in between classes. Sometimes it's a mom whose kids are at school during the day and they can pick up shifts in the morning. So there's all kinds of such a wide variety of caregivers and you need to have that because the clients are going to have lots of different requirements, not only from a scheduling standpoint, but also from what's needed and can the caregiver cook, can they drive, what language they speak, how old they are, in some cases even how big they are, because you might have a large client that needs help transitioning bed to bath. Not going to send a little 98-pound Amber in there to do that. So just really understanding and knowing your caregiver and respecting, what their requests are as well. Again, just like Emmy mentioned, just really getting to know them is just a crucial way to run a business.
Yeah, well, this is, as you both mentioned, can be a very rewarding business for the right person. And it really, this is a segment that I think it would be hard to find one person in some way that hasn't been touched or had visibility to a caregiver situation or someone in need of caregiving. Well, Dan and Emmy, thank you so much for joining me today. I so appreciate this. What a tremendous opportunity for individuals that are wanting to make a difference in people's lives to look at.
Thank you so much for having us. And I did want to share that we are proudly not owned by private equity. So we're family-owned business, and we have a very unique Discovery Day process where you get a chance to meet not only the management of the company but the family of the president and CEO, where we have dinner at their home and might even involve riding a horse.
Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness. No, I appreciate you sharing that. For those listening, private equity in conjunction with franchising we've seen a lot of change and shifts in private equity coming and investing in franchise brands. So it's wonderful that Assisting Hands is still, an entity in and of itself, and that anybody considering an investment in Assisting Hands is going to work with the people that founded this business and are intimately involved. So thank you for sharing that, Dan. I do appreciate that. Again, thank you both for your time. It was wonderful having you on, and I look forward to sharing the Assisting Hands message.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
For anybody interested in learning more about Assisting Hands franchise opportunity or checking available territory in your area, please feel free to give me or reach out to me at Stacie@fusionfranchising.com. Thanks and have a great day.
Thanks for listening. Subscribe for more on the franchise life.